It was nearly midnight when Jake, a single dad mechanic, was locking up his small auto garage. The streets were empty, soaked in heavy rain, and the cold bit through his flannel shirt. Just as he pulled the door shut, he heard soft crying, too faint to be wind. He walked toward the alley beside his shop and stopped. There she was, a woman, bruised and drenched, clutching a small boy by the hand. They were shivering, eyes wide with fear, clothes torn and soaked to the skin. "Please," she whispered, "just let us sit inside. Just for a bit." Jake hesitated only a second. "Come on," he said, opening the door. He handed her a towel and pulled out his daughter's blanket from a back shelf. The boy didn't speak, only stared at Jake like he was deciding whether to trust him. Jake didn't ask questions. Not yet. Inside the garage, he turned on the heater. "You're safe here," he said quietly. And he meant it. Jake guided the strangers to a small room in the back of the garage, half office, half makeshift break room. He handed them dry clothes from the donation box he kept for emergencies. The woman introduced herself as Clara and the boy as Leo. Clara was quiet, her eyes flicking to the windows every few seconds. Jake noticed how she flinched at every loud noise, the creak of a chair, the slam of the wind. The boy sat silently, legs curled up, hugging a worn stuffed rabbit. Jake brought them warm soup and an extra sleeping bag from the back of his truck. "You can stay the night. It's safe here." Clara looked at him with disbelief. "Why are you helping us?" Jake just shrugged. "You needed help. That's enough reason." She smiled for the first time, small, uncertain, but real. Upstairs, Jake's 10-year-old daughter, Maya, peeked through the door. "Who are they, Dad?" Jake replied softly, "People who need us." And for the first time in years, his garage didn't feel so lonely. By sunrise, the rain had stopped, but the air remained thick and gray. Jake made breakfast, eggs and toast, simple but warm. Clara was already up, washing the dishes like she belonged there. Leo sat at the table with Maya, quietly eating but watching everything. "You don't talk much, huh?" Maya said. Leo shrugged, then smiled just a little. Jake handed Clara a cup of coffee. "No pressure to share anything. Just wanted you to know you've got a place to breathe." Clara's hand shook slightly as she held the cup. "You don't know what this means to us." Jake nodded. "I don't need to." Later that day, Clara swept the garage floor, while Leo helped Maya sort old car parts. Jake noticed how the boy always kept one eye on the street. They were still scared, still hiding from something or someone, but for now, the garage had become more than a place for fixing cars. It had become a quiet shelter. One afternoon, Jake caught a glimpse of something shiny hanging around Leo's neck as the boy played with Maya. A gold pendant, small, elegant, and engraved with a crest. Jake's breath caught. He'd seen that crest before. On magazines, business covers, oil refinery trucks. It was the Almond family crest, one of the wealthiest oil empires in the entire country. What was a boy wearing that doing in a garage with bruises on his mother's arms? Jake didn't confront Clara, but now he couldn't stop thinking. The silence, the fear, the bruises, the way they looked over their shoulders. They weren't just running from abuse. They were running from power. Later, Jake searched the crest online, confirmed what he suspected. The Almond family was everywhere. Rich, influential, untouchable. But how did Clara fit into this? Why was she hiding from people like them? And more importantly, what would happen if those people found her? That evening, after putting the kids to bed, Clara sat across from Jake at the small table in the garage's kitchenette, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug of tea, but she hadn't taken a sip. "I need to tell you something," she said, barely above a whisper. Jake just nodded. "I'm married into the Almond family. My husband was Jason Almond." Jake blinked. "The Jason Almond? The CEO's only son?" Clara's voice trembled. "When Leo was born, everything changed. Jason became cruel, controlling, then violent. I tried to leave, but his family covered for him. No court would help. I was just a nobody he married during college. They said I'd never see Leo again if I left. So you ran." She nodded. "I had no choice." We've been on the run for 6 months. Jake's jaw tightened. He'd seen injustice before, but this? He looked at Clara. You're not alone anymore. And this time, she broke down crying. Jake knew it wouldn't be long before someone found them. He reached out to his old friend, Daniel Ruiz, a pro bono lawyer who'd helped women escape abusive homes. Jake explained the situation. Daniel didn't ask for proof. He'd seen enough to believe it. That night, Clara filed for emergency custody protection under an alias. Daniel said it might buy them time, maybe a few weeks. Jake upgraded the locks on the garage, installed cameras, and moved Clara and Leo into the apartment upstairs. I'm not letting them take you, he said. Not while I'm breathing. Clara tried protest. We've already taken too much. Jake cut her off. You gave Maya a friend, and you gave this place a purpose again. That's not too much. The next morning, Jake caught Leo drawing smiley faces in the dust on the garage windows. For the first time, the kid seemed at peace, even if only for now. It happened 3 nights later. Jake had just finished inventory when the motion alarm buzzed. He checked the camera feed and saw them. 2 black SUVs parked across the street, engines running, men in dark suits talking quietly into earpieces. Jake's heart raced. They'd found her. Without a second thought, he rushed upstairs. Clara, get Leo. Go to the basement, now. She didn't ask questions. She scooped Leo into her arms and vanished through the secret hatch Jake had built beneath the workshop floor, originally meant for spare parts. Jake walked out to meet them. One of the men stepped forward. We're looking for a woman and child. Blonde, mid-30s. Traveling under false identification. This is federal business. Jake crossed his arms. All I see is a man with a big mouth and no badge. Get off my property. You're obstructing justice. Jake smirked. And you're trespassing. The men eventually left, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. He had drawn a line in the sand, and he wasn't stepping back. The next morning, Clara made a decision. She called Daniel and said, "Let the world know who I am." Within hours, Clara's story hit the local news, backed by sworn statements, photographs of bruises, custody documents, and even video clips of Jason Almond yelling threats in a parking lot. It was undeniable. The abused wife of one of the richest oil families had vanished with her son, and now she was speaking out. Social media exploded. People rallied behind her. Hashtag Justice for Clara began trending. News vans parked near Jake's garage. Cameras flashed. Clara gave one interview, and in it, she said something that stopped hearts nationwide. I didn't run because I was afraid. I ran because I wouldn't let my son grow up thinking abuse is love. Jake watched as the garage, once quiet and forgotten, turned into a battlefield of truth. But he wasn't angry. He was proud. The world was finally listening. The Almonds didn't stay quiet for long. Their lawyers tried to crush Clara with countersuits, accusing her of kidnapping, slander, fraud. They wanted to bury her in legal noise. But Jake, Daniel, and a growing team of volunteers weren't backing down. One night, Clara looked at Jake. They won't stop. Jake took her hand. Neither will we. Clara stared into his eyes, tired but determined. You could have turned us away that night. You didn't. Jake smiled softly. Because someone once helped me when I was drowning. Now it's my turn. The lawsuits kept coming, but so did the support. Strangers donating to legal funds. Neighbors showing up with meals, reporters defending Clara's voice. And through it all, Leo began to laugh again. Every time he played with Maya, every time he called Jake uncle, healing quietly threaded itself through their broken lives. Courage was contagious. And this little garage in the middle of nowhere had become a fortress of it. The courtroom was packed. Cameras outside, reporters inside, millions watching live feeds. It wasn't just a custody case anymore. It was a national reckoning. Clara stood calmly beside Daniel. Jake was behind her, holding Leo's hand. Jason Almond sat with his legal army, expression smug, until the judge began reading. Given the evidence presented, including video, photos, financial documents, and witness testimony, full custody is granted to Clara Monroe Almond. Jason stood, shouting, "This is insane." She brainwashed the court, but the judge raised a hand. One more outburst, Mr. Almond, and you'll be escorted out. Jason was escorted out anyway. Outside the courthouse, Clara knelt before Leo and whispered, "It's over, baby. We're free." Tears streamed down her cheeks as the boy wrapped his arms around her neck. Jake stood behind them, arms crossed, eyes misty. A single dad, a broken woman, and a brave little boy. They didn't just win custody. They took back their lives. 3 months later, Jake's garage looked different. Not fancier, but warmer. The help wanted sign was gone because Clara had taken over bookkeeping, and Leo helped Maya with schoolwork after hours. Jake installed a small kitchen in the back, where Clara made lunch every day. Customers came just to see the family they'd watch fight and win. Jake hadn't said it out loud, but the garage wasn't just a shop anymore. It was home. One afternoon, he caught Clara humming while she scrubbed grease off Maya's overalls. She looked peaceful. He cleared his throat. "So, what's next for you and Leo?" She looked up, smiling. "This, right here, if that's okay with you." Jake didn't answer. He just stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. No cameras, no reporters, just a man holding the woman he didn't know he needed, until she and her son showed up on a rainy night and changed everything. Spring arrived early that year. The sun poured into the backyard as Leo and Maya raced across the grass, laughter echoing. Clara sat on the porch steps barefoot, sipping lemonade. Jake stood beside her, polishing an old wrench. "I still can't believe how far we've come," she said quietly. Jake looked at her. "I can." Clara turned to him. "You believed in me when no one else did." Jake shrugged. "I've always been good with broken things. Just needed someone to remind me that people aren't parts, they heal." She reached into her bag and pulled out something small, a folded letter from the Almond estate, offering a financial settlement. "Millions. I'm not taking it," she said. "They can't buy silence." Jake nodded. "Good." Clara smiled. "You know, they call me an heir to billions. But honestly," Jake raised a brow. "Yeah, I'd trade all that wealth for what we built here. Every single cent." He looked at her, then at the kids playing. "Looks like you're already rich."